Alright, so last time we saw how to connect OpenPLC with Factory I/O, and we just did a very simple program just to test the connection between them. So today we're going to learn how to use the set, the reset, and the contact in ladder diagram. So we're just going to use the second scene from the Factory I/O examples. So this is pretty basic. It's just two conveyor belts, a tote, and two sensors. So the first conveyor belt, it's gonna be always on, so we don't need to control that. We only need to control the second conveyor with two sensors, one at the beginning and one at the end of the conveyor. So what we need to do basically is when we detect that the tote is in sensor A, we need to turn on the conveyor, and when it reaches sensor B, we need to turn it off. So that's basically it. Alright, so the first thing we're gonna do is create the Modbus server in our Factory I/O scene. So we go to File, Drivers, we select the Modbus TCP/IP server. Here we have already the two sensors, which are the inputs to the PLC, and the coil, which is going to be the output corresponding to the motor of the conveyor. So here we get the IP of our computer. So in OpenPLC, we can create the remote device. It's going to allow us to connect to Factory I/O. So we create the Modbus and we set the IP. Okay, we start now creating our inputs and outputs. So from inputs, we know we have to read two discrete inputs, which are gonna correspond to the two sensors. Let's add the alias here. So one is gonna be sensor A, and the second one is gonna be sensor B. Then for the outputs, we just have one, which corresponds to the conveyor. So we can just write multiple coils and just set one, and then we're gonna label it as conveyor. All right, we save this, then we go to configuration, and we make sure we have the runtime running, and we select runtime before, we search, find it here, and we connect to it. We save, and now the only thing that we need to do is create the actual program. So let's set the three variables. So the first one is gonna be for sensor A. It's gonna be a Boolean, and here in location we can find the alias that we created. So sensor A. We're gonna do the same for sensor B, and for our conveyor we use the alias that we had created. We save. Perfect. Now we just need to create two rungs here. The first one is gonna control the conveyor setting with sensor A, and the second one is gonna reset it with sensor B. So we just create one contact here. It's gonna correspond to sensor A, and one coil, which is gonna correspond to the conveyor. We do the same for the sensor B. We add the sensor and the coil. Okay, so as we have it now, it's not gonna work because we need to change the coil to set and reset. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna set permanently the value of the conveyor. So it's not only gonna be activated when we detect it in the sensor, but even when the tote just passed through the sensor, it's gonna keep the value that we set. So with the set block, we just set the value to 1, and with reset, we set it to 0. So with sensor A, we're gonna set the conveyor, and with sensor B, we are gonna reset it. Now, because of the way these sensors work, when nothing is detected, they're gonna send a 1, and when something is detected, they're gonna send a 0. So we need to negate our contacts, both of them. So this way, when sensor A detects the tote, it's gonna set the conveyor. So the conveyor is gonna start and it's gonna translate the tote. And when the sensor B detects it, it's gonna reset, which means it's gonna set the conveyor to 0 and it's gonna stop. All right, now we save, we build and upload the program to our PLC. Now we hit the debug button to see the value of our variables in real time. So now you can see that neither of the sensors is being activated. So none of these rungs is being triggered completely. So we start the simulation, and as soon as the sensor A gets activated, you can see here that it's setting the conveyor to 1, and then it's keeping its value. And when it gets to the sensor B, we see that the conveyor stops and it prevents the tote from falling. All right, so this is it. It's a very simple scene in Factory I/O, but it teaches you how to use the set and the reset blocks in ladder diagram.